context?
Yeah, very important. It was something when we talked about doing this film and doing the spin-off of the first one, that was one of my concerns, or one of my focuses, was to just have it be lighter in tone and a greater sense of adventure and up the humour. And even in the early drafts we got in, it was headed in that direction, and then we all kind of did our bit to alter it, and you guys especially kind of added quite a few jokes in and humour and fun. And I think it's great. It helps ground the fantastical elements of it all, you know. And I know as an audience, when I'm watching any sort of big epic fantasy, a bit of humour helps me kind of buy into it even more. So.
No, we've known each other for a while, and we like hanging out a bit and just.
Yeah.
Do you like each other?
We do like each other. Yeah. It is possible. It's possible. Yeah. Well, not in the script, not in the script stage at all. But it helps.
I've got my notes.
Yeah. No, that doesn't happen. But certainly on set, very much. Cedric was very open to ideas and add-ons, and there are several moments in the film that was stuff that we just came up with that he liked and he went with. So in that sense, it was lovely, because you could do the script, but if you had an idea for a little flourish or a beat that you thought would help with this lightness that Chris is talking about, you could put it in. I would never be so.
You did a few. Behind the scenes, the extras and DVD, I think there's a couple of raw versions of me.
We had this thing going called Dear Diary. I had this thing where I'd work with someone, and he used to say a thing, if something happened in rehearsal, he'd say, "Dear Diary, a strange moment this morning when such and such." And Chris seemed to latch on to that. So
I butchered it, yeah. It was much funnier when you did it. But.
Well, no, he would constantly be saying, "Dear Diary."
Dear Diary.
I think the other thing that made us laugh a lot is wanting to go home immediately we came onto set. So we'd kind of set up the shot, and then I'd always say to Chris, "All right, well, that is the shape of it. Let's leave it there, and we will hit it hard on Monday." But it was Monday, you know.
Yeah, that was the appeal for me, was that you see the origin of the character as a very normal girl with sort of normal hopes and desires for life, and she's perfectly happy not discovering this power that seems to be a hereditary thing in her family, and she just wants to get married and have a child, and then suffers this great loss, and through that she becomes hardened, and hair turns white, as it does. Just skin turns white, and she becomes this ice queen who just wants to kidnap children and strip love out of their lives, with good intentions, obviously, to protect them from the future heartbreak. But so yeah, this is where Chris comes in. He is one of my children. I play his mummy in this, right?
Yes, Mum.
Yeah, there was a lot of prep. We did actually 3 weeks of what we call Dwarf school, which involved the four of us getting to know each other with our doubles, all having movement training, and then going off behind Shepperton. There's a woods there, and our movement trainer would take us out, and we'd be in a row, all trying to do this dwarf waddle. I mean, that was kind of bonding experience.
I'd already gone through Dwarf College, so
you'd graduated.
I did like an hour every Tuesday night, and that was it.
Scared for those people who just came across you in the woods as well. That must have been terrifying.
It's actually harder than it looks, and it's very painful on your knees. I got to the point where I actually quit dwarf school. I did. I said I had enough of this. I can't, because my knees were about to collapse, because you even slightly changing your gait, ever so slightly, Emily, a slight change, and I hope you never have to go through this, but when you change your gait a little bit, well, you know this, Edith,
always on my knees,
it wrecks your legs. But it did mean that we got to know each other, and we got to
bonding.
Yeah.
It's important.
I do obviously try and pick characters that are empowered in some way and complicated and hard to pin down. I mean, I don't want to be pigeonholed as one thing, and this character for me was actually, in a way quite vulnerable, and emotionally a bit unhinged as a villain, and that was really appealing. But I do feel there's a new wave of, I think there's a steady increase of better roles for women out there. You do have to sort of search through the deluge of crap roles for women, like the damsel in distress tied to a tree. But I think that there is a wave coming of better roles. I don't think it's a tsunami. I think it's like a gentle, steady growth. It's just about maintaining it now. So I think I am aware of what I'm sort of putting out there to the world now, and I want to be challenged. So I don't want to just repeat myself, and I don't want to play just one thing. I watched Frozen 100 times. I'm very disappointed there's not a song in this film. It was not really a reference point. It was actually a cause of like, oh God, I'm going to be asked a lot of Frozen questions.
Sorry for being the first one.
How boring that you went there.
Wait for Huntsman, Winter's War, the musical.
Exactly.
That's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the first film, we were talking about the potential of this film. We're talking about a Huntsman spin-off. We're talking about a Snow White sequel. And look, if there's an audience for either or both, then fantastic, And I think that was the goal here, to do something, as you said, different. And then whether we segue back into, more directly into that world, who knows? But yeah, she was fantastic. We had a great film, and she helped set up what we're doing now, So I'd love to work with her again. And if we have the opportunity to pick up that story again, I think there's a lot of room for creative, different versions of what we've already done. So. Yes, they all got cut out, actually. My hideous scars and things. Beaten.
And how long did it take you to master the accent?
I had a dialect coach on the first film, and on this film that we sort of worked extensively with, and we were just wanted to create a difference in his tone and the musicality of his accent as opposed to everybody else. And the Scottish accent just has such a fun sort of rhythm and bounce to it, You give me a few lessons too. It'd be nice, Rob is a master of accents.
He is Welsh.
Yes.
But he has.
No, I thought Chris's
accent's
accent's fantastic, I thought it was so consistent and real. I was very impressed.
You're really good at accents, Chris.
Yeah, he really is.
Especially the Australian one. You just have to become kind of obsessive about it, and it doesn't always work, but you just kind of keep hammering away at it, and it's tough kind of slipping in and out of it, I think, especially when we start kind of bantering on set, and then you've got to action, you've got to kind of hold yourself back sometimes, and I had a lot of tapes I'd listened to, and as I said, a great dialect coach, Richard.
Sean Connery's a great
Sean Connery, yeah.
Was that who you listened to?
No.
No.
It's too much of that. No, I didn't. She's fantastic. The first time, she was kind of at the top of the list of who we wanted to play the role of Sarah, and I saw her at the Golden Globes, I think, and I said, "Did you get the script?" And she said, "Yeah, I don't care. Just do I get to kick ass?" And we said, "We'll make sure." And she does. She kicks my ass a bit in the film too. But it was fascinating watching all the girls, different styles, and all of them an absolute force to be reckoned with, and it's good fun.
I don't have a preference, Rob.
She doesn't have a preference.
What attracted me to it? I think I hadn't played this type of all-out villain, but I think a villain with a sort of empathetic backstory was really interesting, that you're not just presented with this rampaging lunatic in a film and just told to accept her. You're given the reason why she becomes that way, and that was really engaging for me. And really, nothing against Chris Hemsworth whatsoever, but I was very attracted to the fact that there were 3 very empowered female roles in a film, which is quite rare. Not only to have 3 women in a film, but also, just to have such kind of powerhouse roles, you know, that were complicated and different, and Alex's part and Sheridan Smith's part were also just really layered and really well written. There's just so many girls in this film that was really enticing, I think, for all of us, and so yeah, that dynamic was interesting. And
was that a dynamic you felt on set? Did it feel different having so many strong women on?
Did it feel different for you, Chris?
It's
Chris
like having
got
3
bullied.
sisters. Yeah, it just beat the hell out of me. I could deal with brothers. Sisters were tough.
A lot of estrogen.
Yeah.
A lot of, you know. Sometimes you'd walk into the makeup truck and there'd be a haze of estrogen. I'd have to clean my glasses 3 or 4 times.
I think I remember Jessica Chastain and I comparing something about like a facial cream that we used, and Rob comes up and he goes, "Dear diary, scintillating conversation from Emily and Jessica." You were very
Really?
rude.
Was I?
Yes.
I have no memory of that, but there we are.
did.
There we are.
I remember, I don't think Jessica had met Charlize, neither had you.
No.
And you're both like, what's she like? she tough as she is. And, but she's fantastic. I mean, she swears more than anyone I've ever met. And is, you know, powerful on and off the screen, and, you know, a lot of fun.
She's a lot of fun. But she is like, when you're in a scene with her, it's like, it is really... She has a 1,000-mile stare. Like, when she locks in on you, you're like, oh my God! But she's really exciting to work with, because she is really powerful, and she's really uninhibited, and I love doing scenes with her. And the best part is she doesn't take any of it seriously, and so as soon as the cameras would cut, she'd be like, and then he basically turned to me. So we'd just be carrying on with a story we were talking about before the scene, so she can kind of shut it on and off.
This was on a whole nother level. In terms, you know, because I've come mostly from TV, I've done a few films, but this, like, just walking on and you know, everyone's on the top of their game, you know, costume designers and stunt, everyone is, and it was just a learning process. So I've never done any green screen or anything like that before, so I was just learning on the job and hoping I was doing all right.
Some of them were. Colleen Atwood's the costume designer, and she is amazing, and her attention to detail and the creativity of what she kind of infuses into the costumes is really remarkable, and she cares deeply. She's there every day, and that's quite rare for a costume designer to just be on set all the time. And but she does have this thing where, you know, I have this massive silver cloak made of braided silver leather, and when I see 4 grown men wrestling it onto set, it's when you're like, oh, that is definitely going to be heavy. And so I would put it on, and I said to Colleen, I went, oh God, it's really heavy, Colleen. And she goes, I know. And she looked at me as if, like, it's about as heavy as my sack of Oscars. So just wear it, basically. It was so, but it really is. Her work is just so exquisite, so I think we all felt like you should just wear it.
But the elegance you bring with it as well, even though it weighs tons, the way you kind of gracefully...
It was weird dragging that thing behind me, though. It was like... it was like dragging a man behind me.
Dwarves in Manhattan.
Your knees couldn't take it. It's a walking city.
Dwarves in Peckham.
That was our dream, that the dwarves somehow got taken to modern day New York. They're filmed. 4 dwarves find themselves in Midtown Manhattan. Anything can happen. Like Crocodile Dundee with dwarves.
Yeah.
Now, you can imagine the dwarves have a whole thing going on, you know, because what's nice is the way they set out the relationships, especially between the male and the female dwarves, who have contempt for each other. The male dwarves think the female dwarves are ugly as sin, and it's returned by the females. So it's very funny, you know, because we look so peculiar in it. Yeah, you could imagine them doing that, but could the knees take it? That's the question.
Not in New York.
No, not in New York, no. You know. know. There was a great scene to film. It was quite elaborate, the different setups with the net, and I think it works really well.
I think we were pretty good at them.
I
don't think we laughed much at all. Sometimes I'd weep. Usually in the trailer before work, but
when we're actually in the net, it was quite uncomfortable after a while, wasn't it?
Onto each other.
When we're pushed in, after a while, it does get a little bit. Could you shift a little bit, please? And if somebody shifts, then it changes the whole dynamic.
The thought of having Hemsworth's leather-clad buttocks thrust into your face may seem on paper like a fantasy, but after 3 hours, it gets tired.
Did they not prepare for that in Dwarf College?
No, they didn't. That was the day I missed.
It was a great scene to shoot because you knew in the script that it was funny, and it's what's nice about a scene like that is it's very contained, so lots of the variables go, so you know exactly where you are for the duration, and you know where everybody is, and comedically that's really good because you know you can go bump, if that makes sense, you know. So I was really looking forward to doing it, and then sure enough it turned out really good.
Well, I think, you always have to kind of pay tribute to the effort someone's put into writing it, so you always do what's written, and, sometimes it doesn't help improvising a lot, But I think Cedric was very keen that we'd do it as written, and then we could just kind of loosen it up and have a bit of fun with it, and sometimes Rob would come to the trailer in the morning and say, hey, what about this? And we'd kind of work something out, or... so it's nice to be able to go and have a say.
Precise. It's a very precise thing. If you've seen it and you see the scale of it, and there's so many component parts, whether it's the costumes, the stunts, the green screen. So you can't just whatever you want, and it's shot from so many angles, it's all little component parts. But he would let us run on. So there'd be little scenes like the one where you wake up after Jessica has caught you. There are a couple of little lines at the end where they can basically just keep the cameras rolling. We see if we come up with anything amusing. But it's very, very structured.
A lot of the time, though, you do that for the other, for Cedric, to make Cedric laugh, or to make the camera guys laugh. You just piss about a bit at the end. But you know that it's going to not make it, The thing about improvising in a comedy film is, it always comes at the end of a scene. So, I think the director's always keen to just get out of there and move on to the next bit. It's very indulgent,
Yeah, there's a familiarity to it, but it is a whole new set of steps each time, and I'll take my hat off to her because she had to do it in high heels and lifts and things.
She gave you a run for
which she gave me, and she looked better in high heels than me. No, but it was incredible because she did all sorts of acrobatics and a lot more sort of aerial sort of movements, and was far more sort of advanced than what my character was doing. But as I said, in that costume, I sort of go, you can have it. It's all yours.
What are you going to do? Take on 2 evil sisters and their entire army?
No, pretty much.